Well, I think the answer is yes. Because finally it boils down to what does that all mean for you? So for me in my life, I think as I reflect back today, um, there were seven C's which have really stood out for me. And that's where I kind of divide my experiences. The first one being about what your purpose is. It's really the clarity about who you are, who you want to be, how would you be known. And I think, the sense of purpose obviously keeps evolving with life. But clarity is the cornerstone of defining the road that you take in your life. For me, I came from a background where my parents were doctors. So I actually, after school, started with a medical school. But believe you me, I ran away after 6 months because I found it tough. I just could not relate with it. And I just felt it wasn't my calling. I was a huge disappointment at that stage to my parents, as you can imagine. Um, but I insisted and held my ground about doing psychology. I gave up on sciences because I felt that's not something I'm going to be doing. And therein started my journey with management and then the corporate world. Today, I look back, it all seems to make sense. But believe me, when I was 18 and I was taking that decision, nothing made sense. So I think following your heart, seeking what's seeking you, helps you define what your purpose is and provides you the needed clarity. The second C for me is about, you know, as you seek clarity, the choices that you make, because finally your choices define you. So, not just the job that you take, but the person you get married to, um, the risks you take, the friends you make, the employers you choose, all in some way define you for the next phase of your life. And I think when I look back and reflect here as I talk to you, I feel that I've been blessed. It's not always been a smooth journey, and there have been ups and downs in my life. But I've been blessed because every up and down taught me something new about what I could do. So I don't know whether I always made the right choices, but I know I learned from every choice that I made. The third one being conviction. And conviction for me was the real fuel. It's the passion. It's about, I feel things. So how hard do I try? And when I was convinced about something, I was quite headstrong to be able to push through what I believed was the right thing to do and what I was engaged to do. So conviction is something which keeps you on your path and is the secret ingredient to overcome challenges that you might be faced with. Moving on, I think closely related to conviction is a sense of courage. And I think conviction is your belief, whereas courage is resilience for me. It's about persisting on a path, not just because of my self belief, but over a period of time. I've developed a muscle, a hard muscle, to be able to deal with adversity. In my life, I've had personal challenges with illness that I've fought, which were life threatening, to that odd promotion I didn't get, or that odd salary increase I didn't get, or that particular skill I wanted to learn but I could never, and multiples of these things. So I think we all face adversity, and there have been times where I've been unsure, but I think that hard muscle that I developed with each challenge kept me going. So courage is I would say, a strong foundation below the purpose or the clarity that you create. And then as you move on, I think when I talk about the next three, the first four are really the how, the what's, and the next three are really the hows. So a sense of confidence is about trusting yourself. So the fifth C will be confidence. It's about how you trust yourself with your own judgment, and you believe. I mean, I'm not saying we hallucinate, but you believe with data, that you're right. And when you're wrong, you have the confidence to accept that and to be able to re-energize and relearn or unlearn and do things slightly differently. With women, we often find that this trait is a little wavery. Now, you can talk about unconscious biases, or you can talk about, this is influenced from social, cultural norms that women are brought up with across the world. But I think confidence is that instilling that sense of bulletized injection in yourself where you believe in your own judgments. Moving on, connects and collaboration, which are the next two C's. I think, connect is about having a bit of a network for yourself where people know you, and when they know you, they may take a bet on you. So it's about creating a network, and I'm sure you all have heard a lot about it, but it's essential in today's day and age. I mean, we are all working from home, so there is obviously the digital social media, there is reach out forums, there are communities, but having a bit of network keeps your journey of journey as a learner always evergreen and ever going. Collaboration is a little more internally focused for me. It's about knowing your colleagues, your peers, even your family, and seeking and giving both. So when you give, in that giving, you're also seeking. And there is this sense of common purpose, shared values, wherein, there are few people who collaborate, who get together. And as a result of that, they actually have a multiplier impact on their collective success. So those are the seven C's, which I do believe in some ways can make you have all of it. The only advice I would give you, as my mother told me once, that you can have all of it some of the time and some of it all of the time. So let's now try and strive to have all of it all of the time. So go with the seven C's and see the magic unfold. As I said, clarity is really the start. It's about getting to know yourself. I read somewhere, there are two important days in your life. One when you were born, and one you figure out why you were born. So I think clarity is that why you were born and what is your contribution to the world. There is nothing small or big about it. It's about the impact that you make, whether it could be one person or multiple people. But I think clarity is where it all starts. So it is the most important first step that any individual can take. Certainly, most of the women in their career. If I talk about it in the professional context, then clarity is about defining what your journey in a office or a corporate world would look like. Do you want to be a CEO? Do you want to be a CXO? Do you want to be a CTO? And then you figure out little milestones which will help you get onto the path to achieve that purpose, achieve that vision for yourself. So clarity is extremely, I wouldn't even say it's important, it's probably the cornerstone. Well, there are multiple crossroads, but the three which stand out for me would be marriage, mobility, and maternity. And I've seen, any part of the world, women kind of going through some, personal changes which tend to impact their careers. Um, in this part of the world, which is Asia, we often find that once women get married, there are caregiving responsibilities, there are social norms, depending on which part of the world you belong to, about what a wife should do or not do. Um, as far as mobility is concerned, I've been blessed to have a partner where we were able to work around our career journeys, but it came at a cost of staying separately in multiple cities or two different continents. But I often find a lot of women give up their career because my husband is moved to an XYZ location. And there are times I've had people in my team, rather women in my team, who would give up a very good career because she could not convince her husband to be in the same city as she was. I will not opine on personal challenges, but it's a sheer sense of sadness I feel when I see the talent, not being leveraged in the right way because of the mobility crossroad. And the last one, maternity, is probably the toughest, where especially a first-time mother, not that it gets easier anytime, is torn between her maternal responsibility, and most women are in their 30s when they're having their kids. So it kind of conflicts with the crossroad at career progressions that they're going through within their organization. And the likelihood is a lot of women fall behind during the maternity crossroad. But again, I think all of this is workable if you, as a woman career professional, is willing to tough it up. If there are inclusive organizations who are willing to have flexible policies, if there are understanding and empathetic managers who can empathize that there will be days where she'll be available and there will be days where she might find it a little tougher because she has a young baby at home, and certainly understanding husbands or partners who are willing to share the parenting responsibility with a young mother. I find that in Asia, it's yet a little bit more tilted towards the mom. And as a result, we find, especially in countries like India, the percentage of women in the workforce actually dwindling over the last 10 years. And one of the biggest crossroads which impacts that is maternity. I would also add a third M here, not necessarily a crossroad, but a third M which will underline all these three M's for women to tide over, which is motivation. It is their motivation to work this through, which energizes them to achieve all of that they want. Well, how can it help you excel personally and professionally? Um, I think it provides you with a platform, an ecosystem, which I alluded to just a bit earlier, um, which can help you with a more enabling environment. It can help you learn from other people's experiences, whether successful or the mistakes that they made, so that you can kind of evolve your journey in the right way. So Connect will give you that networking, that platform where you can position yourself rightly and launch your career in a slightly different way. Collaboration gives you a safe environment when you have peers and colleagues who are watching your back, wherein you can take calculated risk and multiply your collective success. So I think the two together are a very potent combination of achieving your own purpose, because there are very few people, well, I don't know of any, who probably can do it all by themselves. So this is about creating a collective, creating an environment, and helping yourself by seeking the right inputs from many others out there. Oh, well, I don't know about one's life, but it's been very, very important in my life. I think I've actually never believed in formal mentoring programs to the extent of relying on my organization. So anything around mentoring in the market, I would seek out. I would reach out to people that I would look up to learn from them, to get mentored by them. But I think mentoring is about that, that connect we talked about, where you kind of share and care for each other. And I've had some really strong mentors, a lot of them are men, who helped me take some of the risky decisions which I probably felt a little scared about. My mentors believed that I could do much more than I thought I could do. So I think mentoring is absolutely important. It can come informally or formally. I remember when I was jumping onto my entrepreneurial journey and I was scared. I was talking to one of my key mentors who said, "What are you feeling scared about?" And I said, "Well, what if it doesn't work?" And he said, "What if it doesn't work? What will you do?" And I said, "Well, I'll go back, find myself another job. Maybe it won't pay me as well, but whatever." And he said, "Well, that's not such a bad option." And I looked at it and I said, "Well, that's not such a bad option." And that's what made me jump. So I think mentors kind of are a little bit reflective mirrors. They help you think more clearly. They help you do experiential learning with their experiences. And it's certainly a must do for any professional who's seeking further progress of their career goals in the life. And mentors are everywhere. It just takes that one little LinkedIn email to get a mentor. Takes a simple reach out, and of course you can have go to formal programs, and seek the right mentor for yourself. So mentoring is important because of the learning and the support that you can seek from a mentor, especially when you are going into new paths, new territory, or trying to achieve stretch goals. Um, I would say, first of all, don't try and be a perfectionist as a mother, because there is nothing called superwoman, and it's a fictitious character, so be it. um, Seek support from your family, extended family, because you need that. Don't let the guilt overplay itself when you leave your child behind. I've had two children. They are 17 and 21. And my 21-year-old once told me, Mom, when I grow up, I want to be like you. And that was the best compliment I had. But I can tell you, I've spent sleepless nights feeling upset when she was unwell, and she was in India, I was in London, and I couldn't really reach out. I've kind of been guilty of not being there for every PTA meeting of my children. I haven't been there when my son was unwell. But does it make me a bad mother? No. Does it warrant that I give up on anything that I aspire to do professionally? No. So I think there's a lot of work which women have to do on themselves, and also unlearn the social norms that they have been asked to conform to. Very often you'll hear this from your mums or mom-in-laws, or more so from the women in the house than men. This is what you're supposed to do. So I think sitting down and giving a sense of your wish list to an extended family would be a good first step. It takes a village to raise a kid, so certainly leverage your extended family to raise your child. Um, and lastly, I would say seek organizational support, because a lot of companies today do want to give that helping hand to young mothers. They have policies which attune to, how they can support you in your journey. But at the same time, it's a give and take relationship. If the organization is extending their hand to help, I think what they're looking for is some serious commitment in terms of, the priorities that you may be driving at work. So I think maternity crossroad is a lot of reflection on yourself, seeking support from your ecosystem, and treading the journey, with equal amount of passion, and not getting deterred with a sense of guilt. For me, I think there have been multiple points of transformation, but the one which comes to my mind was when we were going through financial crisis, and I was part of corporate investment bank in London. It was a surreal moment because the industry was in a complete disarray, and I didn't know, like many others, I would have my job tomorrow. But I think this is going back to that sense of resilience and courage about this shall pass, and there will be light at the end of the tunnel. And believing in just doing the right thing and staying put, and pushing the edge was very helpful. So there are a few things which stood out during that transformation: is focusing on a strategic vision of the future, almost wishing what it would look like. And as they say, there's a law of attraction. So when you kind of imagine something, it starts to pull you towards it. So for me, that visioning was very important. Second was, knowing what I'm capable of and believing in that, and seeking the right support for projects and initiatives that we were trying to do, and working with the leadership team at that point of time to turn around the banking system for Citi. That's when this crisis happened, or I was a part of. And third was, you know, just keeping optimistic. You can't afford to be pessimistic during a transformational journey. So for me, the global financial crisis, or GFC, was a big learning. And my takeaway was that when you believe in something and you're authentic, it comes to you. Oh, well, we're really talking about an intersectionality question here where I'm a woman and I'm brown. And I think I was working in a team which was largely white men, maybe a few women, but largely white men. Um, it wasn't easy, to be putting it very candidly. I think in the early days, um, acceptability was not fully there. It was kind of very subtle, but I could sense it. And very often, people were surprised that I was working in a certain role and in a certain way, because perhaps their association with not just brown women, but brown people was slightly different. So I won't say that I was subject to massive racism, but there were these undercurrents which would play out and they would hurt. So I think I've gone through some of those moments in my career where whether I was working in Europe or in North America. But what helped me is just sticking to the purpose and pushing my way along. I had to work a little harder to convince people about what I could achieve and what I could do. But in the end, going back to the mentors, I got the right mentors and I persisted, going back to the resilience part, and I transcended that journey. But there were those moments which, if I would look back, could I do something different? Probably not, apart from sensitizing people that there's this bigger world out there, and there are people who are black, who are brown, who are white, who may be of different, they may be different in the way they look, or, they may be different genders. But finally, what makes them successful or not successful is their capability. All they need is a nurturing and a sensitive environment. Oh, well, so many out there. So it's really tough to pick one. Um, but, my role model probably would be a member of my team. Honestly, somebody I worked with, um, and who had this very calm attitude towards her life. Uh, why she was my role model is because she was a cancer survivor. She did not have one limb. She was thrown out of her house when she was really young because her parents didn't want to spend so much money on her, educating her, because they wrote her off. And she got brought up in a home where she self-educated with the help of obviously the home staff. Um, and then, was so driven about her education, graduated, and then found the right job. So what I learned from her is tenacity, and I learned from her is never give up attitude. And every time I have a problem in my life, especially professionally, I think of her and I said, what would she do if she was here? And if she could do it, so can I. I'm fully able. Okay, and I've had really supporting parents, and I've had it much easier than her. So there is absolutely no excuse that I can give myself for not being able to achieve my goals. So she's been a role model. She doesn't like to be named, so I shall keep the name discreet. But she's been my real inspiration. I inherited her in one of my roles, and she taught me how to work with disability, or sorry, disabled people. She taught me the value of life, and she taught me, how to be hopeful and remain ever optimistic. Hmm. So, I would say I haven't regretted anything that I have done, but I am a late entrepreneur. And if there's one thing I would do differently in my life is probably started my entrepreneurial journey much earlier. Um, but I think it was a little risk aversive. I was a little worried, safe job, you get decent money, it's great, there's so much accountability. And maybe I was just a little scared to be an entrepreneur at that point of time. But I think when I look back, that's one thing I would encourage all youngsters, certainly young girls, to do. Take more risk in your life. And the younger you are, the easier it is because you have less at stake. So explore new chartered, travel, learn new skills. I didn't think I kind of had that level of variability in my life. I was a little more straitjacketed in management, did a certain kind of roles, worked in FMCG and then got into banking and stuck to banking largely. I wish I had done a lot more different things. I traveled a lot, I worked in different countries, and that certainly added to, my knowledge and the way I look at life. But I wish today that, I would have done different things. And because I didn't, now today, as the CEO of my own company, believe you me, I'm dabbling from finance to operations to manufacturing to marketing and learning every aspect of multitudes of things that go into running a business. I feel like I'm a young girl myself right now in terms of capability and learning. But certainly, if I would go back in time, I would do many more of these much earlier.